What's up guys, Irina here and welcome back to my channel where I review everything tech. It's been about 3 months since I got my Google Pixel 5. There have been some updates during this time with some improvements and bug fixes, so I think I'm finally ready to share with you guys my final verdict on this phone. So let's begin. And I want to start this video with just a few words about the design of the Pixel 5. As I mentioned in my unboxing video, this phone looks really appealing to me, especially in this sort of sage color, and 3 months later, I still think so. I love the color and the matte finish of this phone. The Pixel 5 has an aluminum body, and the back of this phone feels quite unusual. When you touch it, you can feel some slight texture on it. I would say this phone has a minimalist design with some little chrome details, a power button on the side, and a Google logo on the back. And there is something about the design of this phone that makes you want to take it in your hands. And let's talk about the display of this phone. We have a 6-inch OLED display on the Pixel 5, and when compared to the previous generation, the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL, the display on the Pixel 5 is right in the middle in terms of size. So I think the Pixel 5 could be considered as a compromise in terms of display size. It's not too big and it's not too small. However, being a fan of big displays, I wish we had the XL version of this phone, because sometimes I still feel that it's not enough for me. I hate straining my eyes, and the thing is that even if you change the font size from the default to large, the majority of app names will look like this, with dots at the end. And while this thing with the app names could be fixed with some third-party launcher where you could just remove the app names, you will still encounter this issue in some apps, for example on Instagram, and let's face it, in terms of aesthetics, it doesn't look good. So to me, it feels like it always has to be a compromise, and if I customize the font the way I like it, there is a constant reminder that it's not supposed to be this way on this phone. When it comes to brightness, thankfully we get a noticeable improvement on the Pixel 5 when compared to its predecessor, the Pixel 4. The display brightness on my Pixel 4 XL was definitely a shortcoming for me, so now you get a much brighter display on the Pixel 5. However, while I never experienced any viewing problems indoors, I have to admit that when it comes to using this phone outdoors, it still could be better. So yes, there are brighter displays on the market today. When it comes to how sharp this display is, I would say it's pretty sharp, but it's not on par with the Pixel 4 XL, which is like super sharp. For instance, if you take a look at these icons on the screen pages, you will see this difference. For some reason, it's especially noticeable on the YouTube icon. The edges look pretty rough on the Pixel 5, while all the icons look really sharp on the Pixel 4 XL. And I don't want to do the pixel peeping here, guys, but I think you should know about this. So we had a really sharp display on the Pixel 4 XL, but it was not bright enough, and now we get a much brighter Pixel 5, but it's not that sharp. Just like on the Pixel 4 XL, we get the smooth display feature on the Pixel 5 that supports 90Hz refresh rate for some content. And speaking of the display features, for some reason we don't have the ambient EQ feature on the Pixel 5. But if you ask me, I like the way the display on the Pixel 5 looks. The whites look really natural, the colors seem pretty accurate, no complaints here. Next, let's talk about the camera setup of this phone. The good thing is that we get the new ultra-wide camera on the Pixel 5, which I absolutely love, but at the same time we lost the telephoto camera on this phone. And honestly, it was quite disappointing, since the lack of the telephoto camera on the Pixel 5 feels more like a downgrade to me. However, we get some new exciting camera features on the Pixel 5, and one of them is the night sight in portrait mode. So now you can take portraits in very low light conditions, which is really amazing. And as you can see, I got pretty sharp looking photos. Also, we get a new editor right in the Photos app, so you get some new effects and editing features here. My favorite one is the portrait light, which lets you change the lighting in the portrait, which could be super helpful if you've taken a nice photo, but unfortunately the lighting was not so good and flattering, so you could instantly improve it with the portrait light. But it's important to know that you get the portrait light feature not just on the Pixel 5, but also on the previous Pixel models. We get quite a big improvement in the video section, and I'm talking about the new stabilization mode. So you can choose between standard, locked, active, and cinematic pan. The locked mode is for zoomed videos, so basically this mode won't let you ruin your video with shaky hands since the frame will be literally locked. The next stabilization mode is active, which is aiming for shooting videos during lots of movement. And lastly, there is cinematic pan mode that automatically slows down your video, making it smoother, but keep in mind that the videos shot in the cinematic pan mode will have no sound. Also, let's not forget that finally, with the Pixel 5, you can shoot 4K videos at 60 frames per second, which was not available on the Pixel 5's predecessors, where you could only shoot 4K videos at 30 frames per second. I have to admit that the new features and the photos from the Pixel 5 are really amazing. However, the thing that has been pretty annoying to me is the long photo processing when you take photos. And yes, maybe it's not such a big deal, but I believe it's not supposed to be this way on a smartphone that was released at the end of 2020. Next, let's talk about the speakers. And I was quite surprised not to find an in-display speaker at the top of the phone that we usually have on pretty much any smartphone. Instead, Google has used the technology that is called panel audio. So basically, the Pixel 5 screen itself vibrates to create audio. And I would say, while it works great for phone calls, it doesn't sound that impressive while streaming music and videos, as it always feels like there is not enough volume from the other side of the phone. So most of the sound comes from the bottom speaker, and as a result, we don't really get that stereo effect. So I would say the sound quality is not bad on the Pixel 5, but it's quite mediocre. Now let's talk about the battery of this phone. We have a 4080 mAh battery here, which is quite a significant step up from the previous Pixel generations, and so far I've had nothing but a great battery life experience with this phone. I would say this time around Google has pleasantly surprised us with great battery performance on the Pixel 5, especially taking into account that the Pixel 4 lineup was not that great when it comes to battery life. Speaking of charging features, this phone supports wireless charging, which is great, since I think the more charging options the better. And also, one of my favorite things about this phone is that it supports the reverse wireless charging, so you can charge other devices using the Pixel 5 as a wireless charging pad. So it could be your headphones or another phone, really useful. When it comes to the overall performance of the Pixel 5, I would say it's pretty zippy. I haven't experienced any lags or freezes with this phone. The only thing that I've already mentioned is pretty long photo processing, but other than that, this phone feels pretty fast. It's important to mention that some of the features that we had on the previous Pixel models are actually missing on the Pixel 5. One of such things is the face unlock. Instead, we get a fingerprint reader on the Pixel 5, which is, by the way, fast and reliable, no complaints here. However, I have to admit that I miss the face unlock. The next thing that is missing on this phone is the motion sense. So you cannot control your music or alarm with the motion of your hand on the Pixel 5 like you could on the Pixel 4. Honestly, I love this feature on my Pixel 4 XL. I think it felt refreshing and kind of futuristic, and I think it was actually useful. And lastly, on the Pixel 5, you don't get the ability to squeeze the phone to call up Google Assistant. And I think I never was big on using this feature, so I can't say that I miss it. However, there is still a lot to love about this phone. There is no doubt that the Pixel 5 has incredible camera performance, an IP68 rating, and all those favorite features that make this phone a Pixel. And if you're a Pixel user, you know what I'm talking about. If you ask me, I cannot say that the Pixel 5 is the best phone Google has ever made. I know they could do better. This time around, we get a more simple phone with the most useful but less expensive features. However, with the Pixel 5, it feels like Google was not trying to go the extra mile. But what does it mean for users? We get a more affordable phone with the most practical and useful features, which makes this phone a pretty good bargain. Let me know what you guys think about this phone, and also please share your experience with the Pixel 5 if you own it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and see you in the next one!